probably we're
conversation.
probably locked in more today because we're actually doing this at a decent hour to where it's not super early for you or super late for me. You know.
Yeah, it'll be good. I did eat some bad Mexican food last night, so I am feeling it this morning. I'll be honest.
All right.
So,
Well, welcome to the Top Contractor Podcast, the show that highlights the remarkable individuals who are shaping the construction industry and pushing its boundaries with engaging interviews, expert discussions, and real world stories of success and challenges. I'm your host, Bill Ryman, your broker builder, and I'm here with my co-host,
what's up, Billy? Nate
Nate.
Swink.
What's up, man? How you doing today?
Good. I'm looking at these camera comparisons on our recording setup, and like, I always look like I'm rode hard and put up wet, and you always look like a damn supermodel, man. What's up with that? Is that Florida sun or what?
It's that Florida sun, man. You know, you got the Cali sun though too, but I
It's
guess it's just
been
a different.
gloomy lately.
It's
Lately,
just
it's been looking like Washington's weather up here.
oh really? Yeah,
Yeah,
Florida's just bright, sunshiny, and free. Just freedom, the freedom state, brother. That's what it
that's
is.
it.
That's we're always happy here.
Right.
So anyway, Nate, get into what this show is all about real quick before we get started.
Yeah, so we highlight three style of episodes on this show. Number one, I always do that, and then my number one is my middle finger, and then I
Yeah,
flip
you're
off the
flicking off the
camera on
audience.
accident.
You must
Oh,
flick off a lot of people,
yeah,
huh?
sorry guys. I'm a yeah. I don't discriminate on who I hate. I hate everybody equally. Just kidding. Anyway, style number one is an expert interview. Me and Bill bring on a guest and interview them and give you guys some insight on what makes them great. Okay, number two, we go through news, construction news topics. Number three is me and Bill do a deep dive into a specific topic in construction and business. And
Yeah,
today, go ahead, Billy.
we were both going to say it. So no, you led the way. You go.
We're in unison today.
We are locked in today. That's good. So this is
It
going to be
must
a
be
good
there.
one.
So anyway, today we are doing construction news, and we got some heavily prepped topics for you today. Some
We're
edgy
probably we're
conversation.
probably locked in more today because we're actually doing this at a decent hour to where it's not super early for you or super late for me. You know.
Yeah, it'll be good. I did eat some bad Mexican food last night, so I am feeling it this morning. I'll be honest.
All right.
So,
Well, let's hope nothing bad happens and we make it through the first up or through the full episode today. So,
we got it.
but
Let's do it.
we're gonna we're gonna get into some construction news for you guys today. Nate and I are gonna go through it. We're gonna kind of give our opinions on it. These are only our opinions, so don't take it to heart. Well, if you do, we don't care because
No,
they're our
our
opinions.
opinions are facts.
Yeah,
If you don't like
yeah.
our opinions, nah,
Yeah.
don't ever be too rigid, people. That's a bad way to be.
Yeah, see, amen to that, Nate. That's facts right there. But let's get into it, man. We got the first topic, talking some OSHA. So let's do your topic. Let's go with that.
All right. So let me grab my notes and whatnot. So OSHA proposes a rule to allow third parties to participate in workplace walk-around inspections. Okay, not a sexy topic. However, very
OSHA's never
important.
sexy.
No, they're never sexy topic until they're in the back door beating you down with a bunch of fines. So
That's true.
we got a couple things on this one. So what is a walk around inspection? Let me clarify that first. So directly from OSHA's website, a walk around inspection includes an opening conference with the OSHA official, management, and the employees, the workforce, whether that's at a facility, a shop, a factory, or a job site. And then it concludes from the conference to a walk around and then a closing conference as well. So in the walk around portion, that is what this is talking about. Currently, the law states that they can have a assigned employee walk around the facility with them. What this new law that they're trying to push, this new rule, and they're just adding verbiage, to clarify what the rule is adding on verbiage is, and they're so sly with things. People are so sly. With the addition of 11 words, right? The representatives authorized by employees may be an employee of the employer or a third party. Now that's the biggest deal right there. May be an employee of the employer, no problem with that. All good, right? Or a third party. And the third party is where the issue comes in, and that's really what they're wanting here. So, what this could allow, and it's way too vague, or a third party. They should have that clearly defined, because what this will allow is union officials to be that third party. And now you kind of have different organizations who are involved with labor organizing, interfering with safety compliance, kind of teaming up and going to a facility that may be union or may not be union, but it's kind of going to create some conflict of interest there. And there's just too many gray areas for it to happen. So an example that I would think of is, say you're a commercial developer and you have a very large commercial project, multiple, large apartment buildings, whatever it is. OSHA comes on your job site, right? This is a non-union job site. And now OSHA is allowed to have a union rep with them as a safety officer. Now that could easily look like the union rep trying to unionize the companies on that job site.
No good.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the union, but don't try to be political like that, because now you're going to jack up other companies and other industries. And in general, multifamily construction is non-union because of the cost, right? You got to keep the cost down, because when you're dealing with multifamily construction, you're getting a fixed, like, hey, when this is done, we can rent it out for X. If construction costs run over, doesn't mean we can now charge more money for a apartment. It's not how that works. It's all regulated, So costs are a big concern in multifamily, and I think this could become an issue with that if this rule goes through. And I also think it creates a little divisiveness. You're going to have an employer taking a stance, an employee taking a stance, the OSHA, now a union or a third party, right? That third party could even be a competitor. What if it's a big GC and then it's a separate GC, maybe another GC's safety officer? Like, it's just so vague. Like, it could go 100 different ways and create a lot of issues and, a lot of conflicts of interest that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, it should just be OSHA.
Yeah.
Unless the employees petition to the union and say, hey, we want to be represented by you, then the union should be allowed to come in. But without that, it shouldn't be allowed.
I
So,
think that's going to create a cluster of a whole spiral effect of a mess, too. Whenever you have third parties and everything getting involved in anything, it's not a good thing,
yeah,
especially
right.
with a government agency. So,
Yeah,
it's,
and culturally, it should be, I would say, like, in this opening conference, they should say, hey, do you guys have an assigned safety officer? If it's yes, if it's no, whatever. If no, then okay, well, let's assign one. Let's do a quick vote on one. And then you get more buy-in, because you're getting the employees to be a part of the process and take ownership
yeah.
of the whole situation, as well as the employer, not having 4 different personalities all going on, third party, OSHA, management, the workforce. That's too much shit going on. It's going to create some problems. So
I
that's
agree.
one thing. And then I wanted to throw in a little value here. If you guys, as contractors, are not proactively, you know, working on becoming more OSHA compliant, you should be, because you don't want to wait until something happens to get there, because it could be a huge issue, especially as your company grows. We tend to neglect certain things as owners that we don't see, right? Because we're super busy. So you really need to pay attention to your OSHA compliance. And OSHA actually offers a lot of free resources. If you go to OSHA.gov. I was going to say OSHA.gov.com, but that's not what it is. It's just OSHA.gov. So go to OSHA.gov and you can book an on site consultation for an OSHA representative to come out to your job site or facility and inspect it and help you identify and then work through those issues. Okay. Now, this sounds sketchy. I thought it was as well,
That's what
but
I was gonna say.
so no, where it's at. So the consultants are no cost, they're confidential, and they're helping you find and fix hazards. And the consultation program is completely separate from the OSHA enforcement program.
How do you know that guy's not gonna go back to OSHA and be like, this guy's whole job site was screwed up. I wrote record of this, and this, and we got to keep an eye on this guy. How do you
Yeah,
know that's not
maybe,
gonna happen?
maybe, but think about it this
Seems
way
like a
too.
setup, Nate. Seems like a setup.
It kind of does, but think about it this way: if something does happen, and you've been on record of you proactively trying to improve the safety of your job
True.
sites, then you have a leg up. It's like, hey, I have my free consultation come out every 6 months or once a year, and we always try to improve things. Say a freak accident happens, you're going to look really good if anything goes to court or you have any problems.
True.
So, yeah, I'm sure there's things that they sign or you sign to make sure, like, hey, we're just here to consult with you, or we're here to help you get more compliant. We're not going to turn around, and because ultimately that wouldn't benefit their goal, right? So,
I did
um,
like what you said about focusing more at, and especially with growth. We talked about it a little bit before we started, as far as being more OSHA compliant, because a lot of contractors, I think, struggle with that. They don't really focus on it because the growth's happening. The last thing they care about is dealing with OSHA, and OSHA doesn't come around often. And if they do,
yeah,
like you said, they could be screwed and it could be a worse situation. So just try and get ahead of it is a smart move, especially the bigger you get, the more problems you're going to have if you're not compliant with it. So,
yeah,
like
and
that.
unfortunately, sometimes safety is an afterthought just because of how busy you are running the business.
Yeah,
And then that can really turn to
true.
your employees thinking that you're negligent and don't care about them, which I've been in that position before. And it's like, hey guys, it's not that I don't care. It's that you have no idea how much work I have to do to keep you guys working. And no excuse, but we got to figure out how to make things safer. Right. So, um, yeah, the free consultation, definitely something we're going to do for our fabrication facility. Maybe get them out to some job sites or whatever and start
Yeah,
to figure that out.
you can be the guinea pig for the audience.
I will
So
definitely be the guinea pig. I'll put a video of it on the gram of the consultant guy and me, I guess,
there
or
you go.
somebody. I'll
Let's
take him out to lunch, smooze him.
let's hop into the next topic. The next news topic that we're going to discuss today is this is happening in the car world. Well, now it's happening in the contractor world. Contractors adopt electric equipment to fight rising prices. So, making the switch from diesel brings lower operating and maintenance costs, as well as federal and state tax incentives, according to industry experts. So, let's get into this a little bit. More contractors making the change. Obviously, fuel costs are up. Everything is up. Inflation is still there, even though they said inflation's down. I don't see it. Nate, I'm not sure if you see it too over on the other side of the country. But
Yeah, no, I
yeah,
don't. Actually, any of our listeners that live in California, um, they're raising the tax on fuel. So you should see fuel go up at least 30 to 40 cents a gallon
wonderful.
by October. And
Beautiful.
that's factual. I get a lot of insight. A good buddy of mine owns a gas station in town. So,
What do you guys a gallon over there?
Shit, diesel's probably $6 almost. If
Whew.
not $6, almost $6.
What's some regular gas go for there?
I don't know, bro. I only buy a premium because I drive a Benz. So I don't know what regular gas goes for.
Driving that G wagon to work, huh?
No, no G Wagon yet. No, I want that Maybach. That way I can
there,
sit in the back.
there you go with your welding with your welding equipment and everything, like your old car hanging out the window. Let's
Oh,
get
man.
into this though a little bit
Yeah.
more.
So I think the heading on this is pretty, you know, people are so tricky with the way they spin news, right? Contractors adopt electric equipment to fight rising prices. In
Well, here's what they
reality,
said. Well, here's what they said though.
yeah.
That's because the construction costs remain high, which they do, compared to pre-pandemic. This is true. A switch to electric construction equipment brings lower operating and maintenance costs, as well as federal and state tax credit incentives. So they're doing the same thing as they are with solar and with cars. You know, they're doing all these incentives tax wise for people to try and incentivize them to go to it too. So here's from John Wishkaneska, whatever, however the heck you spell his last name. Sorry, John, if you listen. The small, the small compact excavator stands out as a widely embraced electric construction equipment option, having existed an electric vehicle for a while among brands like Case, Caterpillar, Devlon, or yeah, Devlon and Bobcat. Advancements in battery technology enables manufacturers to extend electrification and larger machinery like cranes, mining trucks. So they're moving all the electrical to construction, and the incentives that people are getting is obviously over time they're saving costs, they're saving on the fuel, they're saving.
But the biggest problem with all this crap is how long has this technology been out? How do you know over time you're going to save money? You don't.
It's true. And
You have no
then,
clue.
well, one thing I always think about with this crap too is, sorry we're calling it crap, but uh is what if the battery, you know, like what happens if your battery burns out? If somebody's listening to this and you guys are in electric equipment, you can comment on in the comments, let us know, because you know more than Nate and I. We're not using electric cars and equipment right now, but um you know, how long, if what if a battery goes out, how what is the total cost on a replacement of a battery in one of those? Like, you know, you start thinking, because those batteries can't be cheap too. You know,
Yeah,
obviously they're
nobody can. Yeah.
warranted. I'm sure they have warranties on them, but how long does all that go? So it's like you start thinking about, and then plus the charge it too. How much is the energy rate on the charging of the equipment too?
Yeah. So as I was reading this, I think the best application for this stuff would be like small residential construction, right? You have a temp power pole there. You're not moving around a big job site. Maybe the job site's quarter acre, half acre, and exactly what he's saying. Small compact excavators, bobcats, right? You're digging a pool, you're doing some landscape trenching. I think that's the perfect application for this. But if you think about it, like you're doing site prep on 50, 100 acres of new development, people don't realize, but when they're doing site prep on big developments like that, they're using thousands of gallons of diesel a day to run these pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
Some of these pieces of equipment are the size of a freaking house. Okay. And they'll have up to 30, 40 pieces of equipment out there. Daniel could attest to this because he's done big development site prep and all that, and stormwater. And where are you going to charge all those? I mean, that's 40 pieces of equipment. You don't have 40 temp power poles, and the job site's 30 acres. How is that going to work? I don't know how that's really feasible for 80% of the equipment out there. A lot of the smaller stuff makes sense. And then the whole funny thing is, too, where are we getting our electricity from? to charge it, we're still using a lot of fossil fuels. So all this electric push, I think, is way ahead of its time. Our infrastructure is not even set up for it.
Doesn't it burn more fossil fuels to create the electric
Well,
equipment?
to mine for the lithium,
The batteries, yeah.
it does, yeah. So you're gonna have, yeah, I don't, it's weird. You got to have your like your whatever they call it, renewable energy sources, where it's like wind or water driven or things like that. That's got to be to a level where it's producing enough electricity where you're off of fossil fuels. Otherwise, you're saying we're going to cut carbon emissions and save fuel costs, but to power half the grid, you're burning fuel. It's like, wait a minute, how does that make sense? You're burning fuel to then charge an electric car that then has lithium that's mined with a diesel piece of equipment. It's we're not there yet.
No, and then another thing, which this kind of shortly brushes on, is that there are still limitations on electric equipment that manufacturers are working on, such as operating weight limits and estimated repair cost. So that little nugget right there tells you a little something, because how much weight can these things put up too? How much can you hold in a bucket? How much can you move? Uh, and how much can you pull? And that's what a big heavy equipment and machinery is all about. So if it's electric, I'm sure it's a lot less than something that's diesel powered. Just throwing that out there as well. So they don't really state any of this in the article. Um, I can see it for like small stuff, like you just said, like somebody's working something small, digging something out on their farm or something like that, and they want to use these things for a brief moment. I can see that, where you just wheel the thing back and plug her in and charge her and go back to work the next day. But for big jobs and multiple pieces of equipment and developments and stuff like that, it is almost impossible to have electric post everywhere where that you can charge.
Well, I think I figured it out, dude. And hopefully they're listening because this is a $1 billion idea I just figured out. So you just have to make sure your developments are really close to a target. All the targets, they got all those Tesla chargers. You just drive your D10 dozer over to the target and plug in for the night.
There you go.
I'm sure they would love that.
Just park it right.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of asphalt maintenance and repair on those parking lots.
Yeah,
So,
see, and then you can go shopping after work too. Head
yeah,
in there and yeah, have
charge it
yourself
up on the Tesla
charge.
charger. That's the other thing. Everything needs to be on one charging system.
It's true.
We can't have 30 different charging systems,
And
whether
how
it's
much is
equipment
that going to
or
cost?
vehicles. It should all be centralized.
Yeah, and the total cost and everything. It just, I don't know. If you guys know more about this, comment on it. Throw it in the comments. We'd love to hear your opinions on it. We'll bring it up on the next show and have a little bit deeper discussion on this one. But let's go to the next one. Keep this rolling, Nate. Big topic. Big topic. Older homes contributed to Hawaii's fires destruction. So they're saying buildings constructed under older codes were one factor that helped last month's wildfire spread so quickly, a new report has found. Crazy to think about. So, older dense construction with little fire resistance helped the Hawaii fire to rapidly spread, creating the seventh most damaging wildfire in the U.S. since 1990 and the deadliest in the country in over 100 years, according to this new report from Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. So they're saying these older homes with a lot less fire resistance, not as up to code, were part of the major issue with the spread and how fast that fire spread. Nate, what do you think on this topic?
Yeah, I think it's this is a pretty sensitive topic, man. A lot of
Yeah.
people died, a lot of people lost their homes, and it's very sad and unfortunate. And even worse, there's a lot of controversy around it because the way the government reacted to it,
Yep.
they didn't offer enough funding and enough resources, and yeah, this 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 is definitely a big deal, though. Um, Making sure that things are up to code. But like we were talking off air here, certain people might not be able to afford to revamp their homes, right, or change the roofs to a more fire safe product or whatever it is. So, with that being said, there's got to be some sort of subsidy there, which nobody likes that, but you gotta figure all those little things out.
Well, they were saying many of the homes burned in the fire had components of wildfire resistant construction, but a lot of weak points. So, often due to more combustible materials or older building practices, that's what helped fueled it. And then they're saying about 4 out of 5 buildings were single family homes largely built between 1960s and the 1980s. So obviously the codes, everything have completely changed. And then there was another part of this article too. And guys, we'll share the links to these articles for you as well, so you guys can read these. But there was another thing in this article. I can't quite find it now, but they talked about how here it is. New developments like built between 2019 and 2020 largely survived the worst of the blaze. The neighborhood that bordered Front Street on the west, I'm not going to say that word, highway to the east, is composed of single family homes and multifamily units built in 2019 and 2020, and a lot of them escaped it very well. So the newer stuff held up very well, but then again, the type of construction's different. Like Nate brushed on, materials were used different too. Whether it's windows, doors, roofing materials, interior framing, electrical is different. There's the wiring and all that. Is the pipings, the plumbing's all different nowadays too. So there's so many different variables, and we kind of were talking about this before we got started, Nate. It's like here we got hit with Hurricane Ian last year, and Irma 5 years prior to that. Irma was a direct hit on us, and after Irma was a lot more wind than flooding, and the how newer construction stuff did very very well. The older stuff not so much with their roofs. A lot of them, the roofs blew off with Irma completely, but the new stuff stood pretty good. And then with Ian, we get into the flooding issues side of things. Well, the old stuff was a lot lower to grade, closer to sea level, versus the newer stuff we're building 10 foot, 11 foot above sea level.
Hmm.
And so a lot of them didn't really get any flooding inside, just mainly in their garages and so on. So it's like you said, though, not a lot of people, and this is such an unfortunate thing, are able to update their houses and we're able to afford newer things. So I don't know. This article is kind of like, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. It's an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, it's a horrible incident that happened, and it's always, you can always look at this too. The government's always trying to pin something else on somebody.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it was the older homes. It's like, I don't know that much about this whole fire thing. I haven't done a ton of research, but just looking at photos, it's like, how in the hell in
How did,
2023
yeah.
does
How was
that
that even
shit
allowed?
happen? How
Yeah.
does that happen to that magnitude where it's like miles into town? How
Where
does
was
this?
yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like some fires in Northern California, that makes sense because the or the Ida wildfire, whatever it was, because there's trees and it's like through the whole town there's combustible things. But this is, it's not like this is in the middle of a forest.
No. A
So
lot of it didn't make sense. And then there's a lot of put your tinfoil hat on type stuff of, people, investors trying to go in right away and offer money to people. Um, that lost their homes and so on too. Then I've heard, you start hearing stuff after these things happen, like celebrity homes were untouched, in perfect condition. Basically, everything was burnt around them. To I think Oprah's house or something like that was there too, or somebody's. I don't know. Could have been somebody
Yeah,
else,
well,
but
Oprah's connected, man. She's not a good one. She's of the devil for sure, my man.
yeah, it's true.
That's going to be
That's true.
controversial, but I don't care what you say.
She
She is.
probably listens. She probably listens to this show, and she'll probably be giving you a call, Nate,
That's all
asking
right.
you why
Sue
you
me if you
called her
want.
the devil. So,
Uh,
but I don't know. We'd love your guys' opinion on this whole thing. Obviously, there's not much. I mean, Nate and I our hearts go out to the people out there that lost stuff. I actually know somebody out there. He lost his home. He was actually in my fraternity too. But it's horrible. It's horrible what they're dealing with out there right now too. And hopefully the government can get their act together instead of just sending them $700 checks. Send them some more assistance and more money and that they deserve. And we're not going to get all political on today's episode because Nate and I could probably go for hours on that. We're going to try and just keep this construction related today too.
yep.
Um, for sure. But Nate, you got anything else? I mean, this was kind of a quicker episode for us on the news topics. You got anything else?
No, that's it, man.
That is it.
We could, I don't know, we could throw some little funnies at the end, whatever you want to do.
What do
What
you
was
want
your
to say?
biggest, what was the biggest struggle you had this week with work?
Biggest struggle this week with work. Yeah, there's actually a guy. I designed his house, did his plans, and another built, and my logo's on the plans. And my concrete guy called me and said, "Hey, Bill, I just got your plan from another builder, and he's trying to bid your plan." And I said, "Well, who?" And he told me the builder's name. Never heard of him. New builder. Our logo is on that plan, by the way, too. So this just tells you another lesson for you builders out there. If you get a plan with an experienced builder that's been around for a long time and their logo is on that plan, I suggest you don't bid it because more than likely there will be some repercussions. So just
Yeah,
letting you
so
know.
when you're doing those, do you charge the client a design fee and then you pay, and then they own the design, or do you guys own the design?
They own the design, but now we did something with our architect because this has happened once before. But
Mm,
this specific client too was around the same time it happened before, so I didn't get this done with my architect on this one
gotcha.
either. So now we have it in the architect's contract that we own the rights to those plans as well. So
Well,
if
yeah,
they
it's like
do,
it's your style, you know,
yeah.
it's your style,
So
it's
yeah,
your,
because another builder, you put in the effort on those plans. Like I was there for all the design meetings, everything. It's basically our plan. It's our design. Then
yeah,
you get these new builders that'll come in and they'll be like, "Yeah, I did everything. That's my design." And then they'll build the house for next to nothing just to get a house up, and the client will build with them because they're being cheap,
yep,
and it'll be a horrible experience because you get what you pay for. We talk about that all the time on this show, and yeah, so that's kind of what happened this week with me, and it wasn't fun, and I'm dealing with it. It happens. It's construction. It's
yeah.
home
Lessons
building.
learned, though, right?
Yeah, you where your
You
weak points
identified
are.
where you were weak at, and
Yep.
ultimately that was your fault that any of this happened because you were weak
Yeah.
in that area.
Yeah.
So
And we have them do a deposit, but I guess they're willing to lose those deposits to get a cheaper price on the build. So it's like, all
yeah,
right, how can we make this even more stronger to where they can't go anywhere if they do commit to us, to where that plan is ours. And if they do go somewhere else, they got to redesign a whole new plan. It's
yeah,
kind of my next thing now too, is what I'm working on, because this was another life lesson that you guys know. Like when Nate and I talk about these things, we are still learning as we go too. We've been in business a while, but still there's like always something new that kind of pops up, and we'll have it all for you too. But what about you, Nate? Anything this week, and then we'll wrap this up.
Nothing major, man. I had a really good sales week. In the middle of negotiating a real high level guy to come on board. So that's always a little nerve wracking, send him an offer letter and he's like, oh, I was thinking it would be more than that, like more like this. And I'm like, well, what's your expectation? Let's make it work, whatever. And he's like, oh, well, let me talk to my wife. And it's,
Sounds like you're being a cheap ass, Nate. You need to step it up.
well, no, I thought that was the exact number that he wanted, because when I'm interviewing somebody, I don't give them an offer per se until I'm like, what's your lifestyle like? What do you need to live with? What are you currently making? Because I don't know, you don't know how to make somebody an offer until you know what they're currently making and what their expectation is. So I thought
Better
we were
watch
on the
those.
same page.
Better watch those questions you're asking, because that can be a lawsuit. Asking proper hiring questions, Nate.
Yeah, usually not though. Not well, not with high level. Like this guy's multiple six-figure employee. Like it's with those level of people, you don't need to worry about that stuff. But anyway, yeah, just in the middle of going back and forth. So that's a little nerve-wracking because I know he'd be big to put it in perspective. This guy would bring in at least $10 to $15 million of revenue a year into our business. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I hope you get them.
Yeah, we will. We'll get him. Just a little back and forth.
Yeah. Fun part.
So, yeah, man.
Cool, man. Well, let's wrap it up for this week. We appreciate each and every one of you all for listening. We'll share the links to the articles in the bio here, the team will, and take the time to like, subscribe, share this with your friends and family. Goes a long way. We appreciate you all, and we are out. We'll see you on the next one.